Welcome back, everybody, to the Four-Star Financial Advisors Workshop. And our purpose in this interview program is to talk to some of the greatest financial advisors in America and hear what makes them tick, how their business works, how they serve clients. This is a group of people that are out there toiling every day for individual investors. It's not like investment banking where there's lots of drama or media interviews. We're dealing with individual people every day. So we want to interview people that are in the trenches, trying to help families do the best that they can. So today we have J.R. Robinson. He's let's call him passionate. I think that's probably the way to describe it. And he's in Hawaii. It's our first interview with a financial advisor in Hawaii. J.R., welcome to the Financial Advisors Workshop.
Thank you, Brian. A pleasure to be here, and appreciate you inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, I must say that I'm interested in the fact that you're in the Hawaii because many people from the mainland have tried to go and be a financial advisor in Hawaii, and most of them have come back. And you and I discussed in our pre-discussion as to why that might have been the case and why it's hard to break into Hawaii. So, JR, could you give us a little background of how you started and how you got to Hawaii?
Sure, absolutely, be happy to do that. So, I started my practice at A.G. Edwards and Sons in Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, Pittsfield, Massachusetts to be exact, in 1989. And I was, at that time, I had started my life career. I had a degree in geology and a degree in economics from Williams College, and small liberal arts school in Massachusetts. And I had started out as a geologist, an environmental geologist. And after about 6 months, I decided that was not the future career for me. I didn't want to go to graduate school and get the PhD that I would probably need to be in that career. And I didn't like being outside all winter in the cold in Massachusetts either. So I said, maybe I need something else. And my parents weren't all that keen about having me home on the couch at 22 years old. So they put me in touch with a family friend who was the branch manager of an A.G. Edwards office in Pittsfield. And he was kind enough to take me under his wing. He put me through their A.G. Edwards training program. And for the first 6 years of my career, I toiled away, cold calling, building a book of clients in Western Massachusetts. And at the same time, I had met a beautiful young lady in that part of the world who graduated from Williams as well. And when she got out of law school in 1996, it was either we get married and move to Hawaii or we get married and stay in Western Massachusetts. So I picked Hawaii. So that took me there. And honestly, it helped very much to have an existing book of business, and the internet was just becoming, into vogue then. It made it easier for me to move clients from Massachusetts to Hawaii because, I could talk to people and look at their accounts online and everything in the evening in Hawaii, which was or in the evening in their time, it was just the middle of the afternoon in my time. So a lot of clients wanted to speak to me at night, and they couldn't do it because in Hawaii is the middle of my day. So it made it easy for them to transfer to me. At the same time, Hawaii is, I'm sure some of the people that you mentioned, that you talked about there, mentioned it is very difficult place to break into and build a new business. Hawaii is an island. What's that?
Why would that be? Because there's plenty of nice people in Hawaii.
There are plenty of nice people, but when you're isolated like that on an island, everyone knows everyone. And even there's 1 million people in the city, anyone I walk to in the street who's from Hawaii, I'll bet they know 10 people that I know. So there's very little degree of separation, and the perception of the people who come from the mainland are outsiders. It's like, coming from New York City and setting up shop in the deep South. You don't look like everybody else. You don't sound like everybody else. And there's always the question of, okay, is this person going to last? Are they going to make it? So I had the advantage of having already had a book of business from the East Coast. So I wasn't totally starving. And my wife is from Hawaii, and her family has lived here for 4 generations. So they made it very easy for me to assimilate. No one ever still thinks that I'm local, but my kids are growing up here. They're local. So I have more ties. I had some advantages than most people, but the experience I've had is seen lots of people come from the mainland, try to make it work here, and end up going back home. So yeah, I'm one of the outliers.
Yeah, you are, and that's been the experience most of the folks that I know of. But you've established a connection there, and then you obviously have clients from Massachusetts originally. But then since you've been in Hawaii, you mentioned you've also found clients all over the country of people who have family members, Hawaii people who have family members around the country.
Yeah, and it's happened with the people in Massachusetts too. So, Massachusetts people would retire to Florida, or their kids would go off to college and their kids would come and work with me later, and then wherever the kids end up. The same thing happened to Hawaii. Sometimes people in Hawaii move to the mainland to be closer to their kids, and their kids end up working with us. So over time, I still have maybe 20% of my clients in Massachusetts, 30 or 40 in Hawaii, and the rest are everywhere else.
Yeah. Interesting. So then when you get to Hawaii, were you still with H. Edwards, or you went to Smith Barney by that point?
Yep. So A.G. Edwards didn't have an office then, but the people who I worked with at A.G. Edwards were, my mentors were there. They were very kind to me. I had a great relationship with them. And they were fully supportive of my moving to Hawaii, and which was rare in those days. They actually helped me move. I would spend my nights filling out the transfer paperwork to work at Smith Barney in Hawaii. And it was a good situation. Smith Barney at that time had a pretty big office in Honolulu. And they were happy to have me come in with an existing book. And so it worked out very well in terms of transition wise from A.G. Edwards.
Great.
Yeah.
So then you founded your own firm, but why did you found your own firm? Tell me, why didn't you stay at Smith Barney?
So I was doing reasonably well at Smith Barney, and but it was and Smith Barney then became Citigroup. But it was a large corporate wirehouse, and over time I came to realize that my interest as a passionate financial planner with my own ideas and my own critical thinking and a desire to write my own content did not fit in well with the corporate culture. I was very much the prototypical client-first financial advisor and financial planner. And over time, I became increasingly at odds with corporate management. I was a small fish in a big pond, and it was just a bad fit for me moving forward. So in 2003, a few of us left and set up our own shop as a quasi-independent using Wachovia's model, and we became Hawaii Wealth Management in 2003.
Very good. So then you started out, you said, with Wachovia as the custody bank.
Correct. Independent channel of Wachovia, which became a few years later after Wachovia was failing, collapsing in the 2007 to 2009 crisis. Wells Fargo came in and acquired them, and then we became part of an even larger fish in Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo at the time was just, didn't then and still doesn't have the greatest reputation in terms of putting the interests of its clients first. And we soon realized that it was a good place to be from. So in 2010, I left and set up my own shop, Financial Planning Hawaii, and now also Fee Only Planning Hawaii, but where we can really truly be client-centric 100% of the time.
So you've been with this situation now for 13 years. Yeah. 2010. So you have Financial Planning Hawaii and Fee Only Planning Hawaii. So why firms? Tell us about that. Why two firms?
Well, our industry continues to evolve, and I noticed many years ago that there's a segment of the population of individual consumers who either do not have assets that can actually be managed under an asset-based advisory or financial planning agreement, or who are DIY people but want exposure to financial planning beyond just investment management, or people who have assets that we simply can't manage but still want financial planning. So I said, why not just have our own separate, distinct company for fee-only planning, where you can do for a flat negotiated fee, comprehensive financial planning guidance. And then if the client, it's just a one-time engagement. If the client wants just to hire us on an ongoing basis, it's ad hoc whenever they want. We simply set up a time, negotiate a fee, and go from there. So for all of our clients, whether they are working under an asset-based financial planning model, as the traditional AUM model, we have a tiered AUM model that we use at Fee Only Planning Hawaii, or whether they're doing flat fee planning. In both cases, we give the clients a comprehensive platform that allows them to sort of centralize and organize all their data, maintain all of their important financial planning documents, aggregate all their accounts at all their institutions so they can see everything in one place. And then in both companies, our job is to go through and find, we call it the treasure hunt, but find literally everything we can about every aspect of their financial life that will either help them avoid making a mistake, allow them to do things more efficiently, reduce their taxes, anything that we can do to improve their situation by going through literally every aspect of their financial lives. So we can do it either on a one-time flat fee basis or an ongoing basis for clients who want us to actually manage the assets over time.
Okay, great. So what is the distribution of clients? Is it 50-50, 50 in one and in the other? Or?
No, it's actually really nice because we started out under the traditional AUM model. It's 90% of our business, but being able to offer flat fee, and many clients think they want flat fee and end up asking for advisory. We try to be agnostic to that decision, but I would say probably 3 out of every 5 new clients who organically find us want flat fee. And maybe 2 out of 5 want to work with us on an ongoing basis and having us involved in the investment management decision. But because we started that way, it's 90% of our business is still traditional investment advisory, and there's tax benefits for doing that too in some cases. But we really don't push one way or the other. We want to be agnostic to that. But Fee Only Planning Hawaii has only been around for 2 years now, so it's still a small part of revenue.
Okay, so it's something developing. And when you set up your firm, you also partnered with a local firm, RA, to do some backroom work, compliance.
Yeah, actually, we originally partnered, and they're still our partner and very good, actually close personal friends. But J.W. Cole is an RIA and BD actually based in Tampa, and they. For a long story, but we came to get to know them and get to know them very well. So they help provide, outsourced compliance. We have on the asset-based side about 270, 280 million in assets under management. I really didn't want to be my own SEC registered RIA. So we used their advisory platform and on a limited basis, their broker-dealer platform. And that works well for us. We're still allowed to operate completely independently as Financial Planning Hawaii. But for our fee-only planning Hawaii business, we have our own Hawaii RIA, and because it's we don't actually hold any client assets under management, we're just registered with the state of Hawaii for that. So that relationship works out pretty well. We have pretty much complete autonomy, but I don't have to run an entire compliance department by myself, and can spend most of my time working with clients.
That's a nice feature. That really is. Well, good. So you've done a lot of work, and you seem, as we said, passionate. So you've written papers on planning. You've done a lot of different things. Let's talk about some of the additional things you've done to make the industry better, to make yourself better, like writing.
Yeah, that was I really became passionate about that about the same time. I really, this is the early 2000s, where I really wanted to do more than just investment management. And I could see trends developing in the industry. And it was about that time that retirement income planning software was just in its nascency. The Money Guide Pro was started in about 2000, 2001. eMoney was just starting out about that time as well. And retirement income sustainability was the hot topic. So I decided I wanted to learn more about it and write papers about that. And I paired up with the business school at University of Hawaii. We collaborated on a number of papers on retirement income sustainability. And as I was writing, this is in the early 2000s, I kept getting pushback from the compliance departments at Smith Barney and then Wachovia. And they're like, you can write whatever you want, but it's got to contain all these disclosures in it. And as long as you do that, you can say whatever you want. As long as we can review it and edit it all. I'm like, listen, if I'm going to publish in the Wall Street Journal, or if I'm going to publish in an academic journal, especially, you can't have all that. Just if it's peer-reviewed academic journal, why do you care what's in it? I'm not recommending a product. I'm not, just let me write. And they were like, nope, can't do it. So I'm like, well, I got to go. So that sparked my desire to become totally independent. And I've written today 10 published peer-reviewed academic papers and literally hundreds of articles that published in a wide range of subjects. I love writing. And that content creation, as you probably know in running your business too, content creation is a great way to become visible. And when people search for you, you're findable, and it helps. Certainly, it's helped the SEO of Financial Planning Hawaii. So that, and the fact that we named our company Financial Planning Hawaii, makes us pop up on a lot of local searches too. But that is a way to differentiate myself. It is a way to have an avenue for what I really like to do, which is critical thinking related to everything related to financial planning. So that's where we get started. But where I was going with that is that our first papers on retirement income sustainability also led me to creating a software company that I thought made retirement income sustainability more tangible to both advisors and to consumers than a lot of the assumption-based Monte Carlo simulation software that we're using then, and still is Money Guide Pro and eMoney are both used heavily today. But there are a lot of things about those applications that I didn't think were necessarily best practices for presenting information to consumers, or even tangible to consumers, or even understood by advisors. So we created a software company called Nest Egg Guru, which I still run today, that created some unique retirement income and retirement savings simulations applications.
Nice. And so now you have that still going. You're planning to do some things with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, in 2015 or 2016, it's actually a little bit of both. We went through a startup accelerator program with Blue Startups Hawaii, which is the one of the largest startup accelerators for tech in Hawaii. And we started out with a software as a service model. We're trying to convince individual financial advisors across the country to subscribe to Nest Egg Guru and build it into their website so their clients could use it and they could use it with clients. It turns out that business model was not a great fit for, well, it's software as a service is a very capital intensive, very difficult way to break into our own industry space. There aren't that many advisors. First of all, the market is small and it's hard to get recognized. It's hard to gain adoption. So we've since stopped offering it as a service for individual financial advisors, other than I still use it in my practice. It's built into my website, but we're actually, we've added 2 more software applications, the only password management application that's available for advisors to use for their clients, and also unique file transfer and document storage, similar to what the eMoney Vault is for eMoney, that we are planning to just offer it as a unique proprietary software application for a single RIA. So we're looking for either an account aggregating RIA or any RIA that might be interested in having it as their own proprietary product to help differentiate them.
Nice. Well, that sounds like a great program, and maybe we'll take a look at it.
Happy to show it to you anytime.
Yeah. And then you've also done some other things in addition, just password manager and a bunch of other little innovations that make things easier for a financial advisor. Let's talk about some of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything. Like I said, I find something that I'm passionate about, and I pursue it, whether it's for better or for worse. But so one of the concepts that we got in going through the startup accelerator program was, try to find ways to make your service sticky to consumers, to make it so that they don't want to leave. So, and I found that, like, using eMoney, for example, is a classic example of that. I have hundreds of thousands of client documents stored in the eMoney document vault. And as unhappy as I may be at any particular moment with eMoney, the fact of the matter is I'm not going anywhere because I've got all my client documents stored in their platform. Those don't just transfer somewhere else. So the idea is, how do you make software that will be useful to advisors, or from our perspective to our clients, that they appreciate, something that's a free service to them, like giving them the ability to store their passwords and securely store and import and export their passwords as needed on your website. It brings them to your website, keeps them on your website, and gives them a free, valuable service. That makes the relationship sticky. If you're doing something like that, the clients appreciate, and there are no other password management apps for the consumers can use from their advisor. There's Dashlane and LastPass, but you have to subscribe to those. So we give that away for free to our clients. And same thing with like secure file transfer storage. I wanted to make something that's like or better than the eMoney Vault, but that wasn't proprietary to eMoney, that you could just buy as an a la carte solution or use as an a la carte solution. So that's new. We did that in about the last 12 months. But anything that you can do that helps drive consumers to your website and hold them on your website, that boosts your SEO. It also just builds client loyalty. I mean, when my clients know that I have Nest Egg Guru, Password Guru, and Documents Guru, no one else has that. I'm the only one. It's my own software. So, and I encourage other advisors to do that, just as a tip. If you have your own proprietary software, it gives you credibility. People think it's cool that you have it, and you want to say, what differentiates you? Well, that differentiates me. Nobody else has these applications. I do. So Anything you can do to separate, as you know, it's hard to distinguish oneself in our industry. That's sort of how I've used my writing, the software, to make myself more credible to the public, as well as to obviously follow my own interests and passions.
Nice. So you're a passionate, you're a developer, you're an innovator. Clearly, the industry always needs some innovation and things that work for the advisor better than what's out there. Tell us what you think the next trends are. What do you see happening in our industry to make it better? And are you going to be part of that lead?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. Whether I'm going to be, whether I'm going to be part of it or not is a difficult challenge, because I guess the word experience sounds better than old, but yeah, our industry has always changed. But I hope to be continuing to work for a while, but everything changes so quickly. And it is important and incumbent on all of us who want to be in the business to be able to adapt along the way. And I've tried to always stay current, but everything is changing very quickly. Regulation is dramatically different today from what it was, and that's hard for everyone to keep up with. At a certain point in time, people like me are like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, it's getting to be burdensome. But in terms of trends that I think are I don't know if they're positive, but obviously that one of the hottest trends going on right now is artificial intelligence, right? AI. And so one of the things that I hear, it's you hear it all the time in our planning community in circles and social media that you and I are in. And I was intrigued by it, because I create tons of content, and it takes me a lot of time to compose content and to post it and to share it and all that. Everyone said, well, you should try ChatGPT, because it can write an article in 30 seconds, which would take me, I'm slow, but it might take me 4 or 5 hours to write an article. So I said, okay, I can see how that might be useful to us. Let's give it a try. So my objective was, okay, I'm going to have ChatGPT write up just a basic piece of content for me. And I've seen a bunch of other AI generated pieces. And the challenge I've always thought was that, I have a voice in my writing. People, when I read something, it may be controversial, it may be funny, but it has my voice. People will know that I wrote it, that I'm not using FMGs or advisor websites, canned content on my blog. When people read it, they know I wrote it. So when I said, okay, I still need to have that voice, but can I have AI compose an article for me on a subject that's of interest to me? I tell it what to write, it writes it, and then I just go in and edit it and put my voice in, add some humor, add some controversy, whatever. So I said, okay, I'm excited about this. So I asked ChatGPT to produce an article for me on Secure Act 2.0 and tell me, the 6 most important rule changes of that. And I thought that'd be a useful, timely piece. I was going to write an article on that anyway. So I gave it the instructions, and I watched it write it, and it took about 90 seconds to write. A clearly organized, from a writing perspective, it was very simplistic. There was an introduction, there were 6 bullet points, and then a summary of what the introduction and the bullet points said. It's not high writing, but it gives basic content, gives you what you need. I looked at them like, this is amazing. It just did this in 90 seconds. And I'm like, all these rule changes. I'm like, wow, I can see how this could save me a lot of time. I just need to go and clean it up. And then I read it, and I realized it was a complete work of fiction. It was making up tax laws. It was inventing rules. I'm like, that's not what the Secure Act 2.0 said. No, this is all wrong. And so the danger in
it's accurate, right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand how college students are using this to write papers and everything, and it's making a huge difference, and it's controversial and everything. It's different, and it's useful up to the point where it's accurate. But if you're making up stuff, I'm sure there's going to be people getting failing grades on their papers for making up laws of organic chemistry or whatever they're writing it on. I don't know. But I looked at it and I said, this is not there yet. And I don't know that it ever will be. I don't think, because I am so fussy about the writing. And it's not necessarily that I write in a high style, but I can write in a style that is engaging to the reader. And that requires a personality. I think, when I read all the content, even from other articles, I can tell it's just generic. I want something that speaks to my clients, that has my voice. And I think there's a purpose for chatbots. I think in a very simplistic role, but for content creation, I don't think it's ever going to replace me. I just don't.
Yeah, it's too unwieldy, possibly.
Yeah, and like I said, I write better. I mean, my structure is more complicated, and I'll make typos and grammatical errors and things like that here and there, but it'll have a personality. I don't think ChatGPT is there yet. I don't think it's ever going to be able to do that.
Nice. Yes, I agree. Well, great. So, all right. So how about some other trends in the industry? Where do you see the industry going from here besides technology? In the planning side, investing side, what do you see happening in our industry that people should be aware of?
Our industry is still, and probably always will be. I mean, it's a little bit like herding cats. I guess the most dramatic trend that I'm seeing that is, and you guys have probably seen it too, but there's consolidation going. A lot of it is, one way or another, private equity backed. So, and I'm surprised that this didn't happen much sooner, but our business most businesses, most practices like mine, probably yours too, once they're established, they are cash cows. There's lots of recurring revenue. And typically, if you're good at controlling your own cost structure and you are truly independent, there's recurring revenue that's predictable over time at a high margin. So it makes sense that private equity would figure that out. I mean, I always figured that we would never be a target because my little business, it's very profitable and has a high margin, like most of my peers in the industry. It's still a little business. Why would anybody want to buy it? But the notion that a private equity firm would come in and aggregate 50 or 60 or 100 companies like me and then repackage it keep that recurring revenue to themselves and help somebody like me come in and retire or stay and work on a salary to help keep the base going. That seems to me to make a lot of sense. So that trend has obviously been hot in our industry for a few years. I actually was slow to recognize it. But that's something that we're looking at too. I mean, it's the reason that I'm aware of it now is I keep getting calls. People say, "Are you 57 years old and been doing this business for 30 years?" And you read my ADV. Well, you're about the right age that have you thought of succession planning and how you might like to do that? And yes, they've got my attention because they're right. Everyone thinks about when they're thinking about aggregation, and they're thinking about industries like restaurants or whatever, which are low margin, high cost business. Why wouldn't it make sense to aggregate financial advisory practices or financial planning practices where there's tons of recurring revenue at high margins? So we're being approached by that all the time, and it's worth considering. I mean, it's to the extent that you can do that for the benefit of your clients, and that's, for us, that's been the sticking point. It's hard to find a fit where, if the aggregator wants to take your clients and put them in their own asset allocation models and change their existing investments, I don't care how much you're going to pay me for my business. I can't do that to these people who've trusted me for the last 30 years and have you change them in a way that I'm not comfortable with. So, and my clients feel the same way. They're like, "We don't want to go with them. Why would we go with them? we hire because of you, not because of them." So, but that's a huge trend in our industry, and I'm certainly being approached on it all the time. And for the right fit, I think I would be. It may take stress off of my life if all I have to do is talk to our clients and work at my desk for the next 10 years until I'm collecting Social Security. I'm fine with that too. But that's a big trend in our industry, and it's, as I've gotten involved in it, it's fascinating, the companies that are doing it, and it's a wide range of philosophies and cultures and how they're doing it. But it is probably, I don't know if that's the biggest trend in our industry for the last several years, but it's definitely there.
Definitely there. So that's about our industry. Now, how about for investors? I like to call 2022 the worst investing year in my career, even though it wasn't the worst stock market. It was the worst investing year because the bond market was terrible. And then this year is kind of sloppy. It's up a little bit, but really not doing really well. Economy's slowing down. What do you see for the near term? And are there any changes in the long term?
So this is how I describe it. So I almost all of the work that I do for investment planning, it's got to have some sort of an academic basis, right? So we try to practice modern portfolio theory, efficient markets hypothesis, random walk theory, big into index funds and index investing and all that. But I never, we tell clients there'll be times when the stock market's down, times the stock market's up. We really don't lose any sleep over that. That's just how it works. I mean, sometimes it'll be down. Having been through huge, major, long-term declines from 2000, 2002, 2007, 2009, the crash of 87, I was actually related. It was my econ career, but that was, I've been through a lot. So I understand how all that works. I understand fundamentally how companies work. The reason I say I need to be careful about how I respond to that is that the bond market is not the same as the stock market. And starting in about 2017 or 2018, I started to get very uncomfortable having any exposure to bond mutual funds. Interest rates were near historic lows. And I've been through rising interest rates. I mean, I lived through the 1970s and 80s, even though I was still not necessarily full into my career. But when I started in 1999, a one-year CD paid 10% interest, and a mortgage was 12%. I mean, my first mortgage in 1999 was 8%. And I was happy to get it. So, and I've also through that time seen, and through just even basic education, what happens to existing bond values when interest rates rise. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I was telling clients, do not have any exposure to bond mutual funds. And by the time 2000, even 19 and 20 rolled around, clients would say, how come we have cash and stocks? Why don't we have bonds and bond funds? Because why would you buy a 5-year treasury paying 0.2%? It just makes no sense. Or a 5-year CD or a 10. So by the time 2021 came along, I was in my newsletter, I was shouting for people, friends, do not let friends own bond funds. And so I had to explain to people, why don't we just put everything in stocks? Well, that's crazy. You can't be 100% in stock. I've been through 2007, 2009. Stocks have their purpose. The markets will be fine. But bonds are different. Interest rates, when you've got the 30-year treasury paying 1.2%, interest rates can't go any lower. They're just not. They're going to do one of two things. They'll either stay there or go up. So, and I was writing it in every newsletter in 2020 and 2021. And so when 2022 happened, it was, I told you so. I had really I've been like, this is exactly what I said was going to happen. The exact opposite of what the people at Silicon Valley Bank apparently were doing, who were buying 30-year treasuries at that time. I don't know. But we had cash. We had like $50 or $60 million of our client assets in cash earning zero. And I was telling them, we're not doing it to get 0% interest. We're doing it so that we don't lose 10 or 15% when interest rates go up 1% on bonds. And they went up, obviously, they went up a lot more than that. So for the starting in early 2020, we were very early on. I was so excited to get 1% on cash in March of 2022. So we had people buy CDs starting in about March of last year and buying them all throughout the year. So the further the year went along, the higher the interest rate. And people who were unhappy getting 1% didn't lose money because the value didn't drop like if they'd own bond funds. And when it came due this March, now we're rolling over at 5. So we've always been proponents of laddered bond portfolios and buying individual CDs mostly instead of individual bonds. But we've been actually making hay while the sun shines in the current interest rate environment. We're using stocks, obviously, for what they are, and for fixed income, it's CDs and treasuries. And it's getting harder now. People say, okay, where are interest rates going from here? It was easier when we knew they couldn't go any lower. There are obviously a number of reasons why rates could go down or go up. So we said we don't know. So we'll ladder based on where interest rates are. At this point in time, I really don't want to ladder much beyond 3 years. You don't really get paid for it. But we'll do that. And if rates go up higher, great. We'll have money coming due. If rates stay the same or go lower, we're still not losing money on bond funds. So
JR, now that we've seen a big spike, and today was the 10th increase in interest rates by the Fed since they started tightening. They're not saying they're done. They're saying they're going to look at the evidence as of today and say, gee, do we go any further? What do you think at this point of the bond market? Would you buy bonds now?
I'm buying bonds every day. I'm just not extending the maturities beyond 3 years.
Okay.
And the way I have to explain to people is, look, if we're getting 5% roughly for anything from anywhere from 3 months to, at 5 years, you're getting maybe 4.7 on a CD right now. So there's not a big spread. It's basically 5% for anything out to 3 years. If rates were to go up further and I could get 6% at 3 or 5 years, if the yield curve were to start to flatten and I could get 5% for 7 years, I would continue to extend the maturities further. If rates go up, I would, instead of building a 3-year ladder, I'll build it at 7%. I'd build a 7 or 10-year ladder. I'll be happy to lock in those rates and spread them out. I'm not betting that 7 years will be the highest rate either. We've lived through higher rates than that. So, but I'm happy if I can lock in 6% guaranteed, especially if you're thinking it from an retirement spending perspective, we've all been focused on this, which I really do not agree with, but the so-called 4% rule. How much can you spend from a portfolio and never run out of money? Well, if you're able to get, and when I started working in the 1990s, people would retire and they'd say, you know what? I'm going to put most of my retirement savings into bonds, get my 8% interest, and the rest I'll put in stocks to keep up with the cost of living. And my heirs will get the principal because I'm not spending any principal. If we're getting to the point where we're getting 5% and 6% on fixed income, we're almost back to that day. You'll never run out of money because if you're just living off the interest, you won't. And you've got a cost of living increase either from dividends or from appreciation in the stock market over time. You will have, additional cost of living increases, and you will never run out of money. So interest rates being much higher kind of changes the retirement spending dynamic. And that's sort of what we're in. If rates permanently stay, or say, I don't think we're ever, the notion that you could get a 30-year mortgage at 2.5%, which you could do in 2021, that's a generational thing. I doubt very much we'll ever see that again in your lifetime or my lifetime, or probably even my kids' lifetime. I don't think we'll ever see rates going back to zero again on bonds. But could they go down to 3 or 4% for 12-year, 4 or 5% standard mortgage? Yeah, of course that could happen. That's, it's easily happened in a recession, whatever. But I don't think we'll see rates going back to there again.
Well, this has been a great discussion, JR, and we're coming to the end here. So I thought maybe what we would do is end with, if there's a message you'd like to send to our industry. So about 300 people are going to see this over the next year. Maybe 1,000 advisors will see this and hear your great ideas. What would you like to tell the industry today? And anything that an important message that you can share with them?
Yeah, I think another hot topic in our industry that I think is important for everyone to keep in mind is, financial planning has evolved dramatically over the last 20 years. And I think most of us who are financial planners, who consider us financial planners and not investment salespeople or insurance salespeople, if we consider yourself a financial planner, there's so much confusion over what's a fiduciary standard and what isn't. I think the message that I want to share with fellow advisors is be true to your clients. At the end of the day, there are certain things that we should all do for our clients, aside from just the vague notion of putting their interests first. Putting their interests first really does mean that. It means you should feel like you have to disclose literally every penny of compensation that you get. There needs to be, it's not required by the CFP board. It's not really even required in that detail by the SEC. But you as a financial planner should embrace transparency. It'll always help you. In fact, it'll make you more credible the more transparent you are. We have our pricing schedule on our website, our ADV on our website. We try to disclose everything. And clients appreciate that. If you say to your clients in writing on your website and in your communications with them, we have these conflicts of interest. They're not avoidable. This is what they are. If they crop up, I will explain it to you. It's a conflict of interest for me to encourage you to hold all of your assets with me and have them under asset management. There are reasons why, and I'll explain it. That is the future of true financial planning, is to be completely transparent and to get away from this notion that there's any compensation model that is completely free from conflicts of interest. There aren't. And those are hot topics in our industry too. But for anyone who's really into true financial planning, that's the message. Complete transparency, total client first, and you will sleep well at night, and your clients will too.
It's a great message. Thank you. This has been a great discussion. You're certainly an innovator, a leader. You do things your own way, and it's really quite interesting to watch. So congratulations on a great career so far, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Thank you so much. I'm fascinated to learn more about you too, and I'll definitely start following you more closely. I like what you're building.
Thanks, JR. Thanks for being with us, and thanks everybody for being with us today in the Financial Advisors Workshop. We're going to come back with another great interview with someone just like JR. Boy, we have great people in this industry, and we're trying to display them for our whole industry so we can all learn from each other. So thanks again, JR.
Thank you. Aloha.
Bye-bye, everybody.